Got us up on YouTube live. So whenever 7 o'clock strikes, you're welcome to start.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. So this is the Design Review Commission meeting for Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. First item on the agenda is roll call. Can I have a roll call from the commissioners? Kristen?
Here.
John?
Here.
Eugene?
Here.
Armin?
Here.
And Glenn Cass is here. Second item is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt or do I have any amendments to it?
I'll move to adopt.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
John. Seconded by Kristen. All in favor, say aye. Kristen?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eugene?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
And Glenn is an aye. Next item is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any raised hands and other indications of anyone wishing to speak?
If you'd like to make a public comment on an item not on the agenda, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Next item is the consent calendar. We have 3 items on there. Let's handle each of those separately. July 14th draft meeting minutes. All commissioners were in attendance. So do I have a motion to adopt those minutes and meetings, or do I have any modifications?
If not, I'll make a motion.
Thank
Okay.
you, Eugene. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Armin. All in favor of adopting those minutes? Let's have an aye. Glenn is an aye. John?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
Kristen?
I don't think I was here on July 14th. It's my son's birthday and I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
maybe you
I
weren't.
wasn't here.
Maybe
So
you're correct. You,
No, I don't think I-
at air. So
yeah,
you're
so I don't think I
abstaining.
vote on that, right?
Right, you abstain. Okay, and Eugene
Aye.
and Glenn was an aye. So we have 4 commissioners aye and 1 abstain. Okay, the July 28th draft minutes of meeting. On that minutes, both Eugene and myself were not present.
Right. Yes.
So do I have a motion to adopt them as they are, or do I have any modifications?
I'll move to adopt them as they are.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
gentlemen. Do I have a second? Second by Kristen. Okay. So going through the roll call to approve, John,
Aye.
Armin,
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Okay, 3 commissioners, aye. Next item is on the consent calendar is a continuance of the request for hillside development permit and design review on the property HDP 0921 for Matthew Wilson. This was a residence on 3971 Canyon Road. I make a motion that we adopt this consent calendar to continue. Do I have a second?
So moved. Oh, second.
Thank you, Eugene. All in favor? John,
Aye.
Armin,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Eugene,
Aye.
and Glenn. Aye. No study sessions for this week. Continued public hearings. We have item HDP 08-21 and TP 29-21. This is the Cox Family Trust. This is for property at 1161 Oleander Drive. We had seen this project on the previous meeting and had asked for some cross sections to help clarify views from neighbors. So let's see, who was Nancy? Nancy is the staff personnel on this. Nancy, you want to summarize what's going on?
Sure. So the item was before the commission on August 11th. And since then, the project sponsor has submitted contextual drawings showing the project in relation to the neighbors as requested by the commission. This was part of your staff packet. Staff can make all findings and has provided an updated draft resolution and recommending approval with standard conditions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Nancy? Okay, no questions. Let's have the applicant, if they want to add anything this evening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Kubicek, and I am the designer of the project. And I did the cross sections as you suggested, and I was in contact with the neighbor that lives down the hill, Mr. Leahy, to discuss the addition. He would like to add a couple of screening plants in 2 locations, and I think the best way to show this to you is to hold it up like that. And we are right here, and there are 2 over here. 2. It's hard to do this backwards. Here and here. See the 2 red circles that I have there. To add 2 screening plants to the landscape plan. But other than that, I think we are in good shape as far as all the neighbors are concerned. And I think you can see that there's a good distance between all of the houses that are in the vicinity. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions by commissioners? None. So
Just one quick one.
yes, sure.
The plants that you're proposing with your red circles, are they from your existing palette?
Well, we would like to choose something that is evergreen and opaque, just to block lights, even though the lights are going to be down, dark sky compliant. He would like them to be English laurels, but we're not sure whether those are on the allowed list. So if they are, we would use English laurels. Otherwise, we would choose something else from our plant list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions by commissioners? Do we have any public comments on this issue tonight?
If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, that opens us up to commissioner comments. Who wants to start this evening's comments? No one.
I could, sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you for providing the drawings that show what I think we discussed, but it's great to see it graphically to confirm that and consistent with kind of documentation we ask for from most applicants with sightline issues. I think you've demonstrated reasonably addressing our concerns, so I appreciate that. The one comment I would say regarding the plant, my plant question, is I would add to the resolution that the staff should approve the final plant selection. I don't believe that the Design Review Commission has to have any part of that, but I think it looks good. Thank you.
Okay, next, Eugene.
Yeah, I think John already mentioned the key item, and I appreciate the designer coming with the cross section. So thank you very much. I think this looks good, and I have no more comments to add to this. Thank you.
Kristen.
Yeah, thank you for completing the package so that it's consistent with what we typically review. I feel that we can confidently support approval because we've seen the standard documentation. So thank you for doing that, and I have no other concerns.
Armin.
I was absent in the previous meeting, so I'm not going to make any comments
Okay.
on this project today.
Okay, and I concur with the other commissioners. Thank you for giving us the cross sections. It makes it clear for us. I am looking up, I don't see English laurel, but I do see two types of laurel that are approved, a hybrid laurel and a portal laurel. So we'll let staff make the final decision on that, or with the assistance of their arborist. So do we have a resolution to go ahead and approve this project?
I'll advance the resolution to approve the project.
Thank you, Kristen. Do I have a second on the resolution?
Yeah, I second that.
Oh, go
Thank
ahead.
you, John. Okay, all in favor, Kristen,
Aye.
Eugene,
Oh, aye.
Armin? Oh, he's gonna abstain. Okay.
Right.
John
Aye.
and Glenn is an aye. So we have 4 commissioners, aye, and 1 abstaining. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you
Don't
very
do
much.
anything for
Appreciate it.
14 days.
I'll see you back after your next item.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is item 7A. This is project HDP 12-21. This is Michael Walker, owner for R20 zoning development, which will occur at 1217 Cambridge Drive. And the staff representative on this again is Nancy.
Commissioners, the item before you is HDP 1221 Walker, for demolition and new construction of a single family residence at 17 Cambridge Drive. It's located in the R20 zoning district and in the Hillside Overlay District. Oops. It's a corner lot, approximately half an acre, and located along the Walter Costa Trail near the end of Oleander Drive. Here's the existing footprint of the house and the proposed, which they're proposing to reconfigure and set it back towards the rear property line. They're requesting hillside development permit, sign review, and grading permits. Wrong direction. Here are some existing images of the front of the house and at the rear. And some renderings that they provided of the front yard, a bird's eye view, as well as the rear yard. This pool here is for a future permit, so it's not part of this project. These are the color materials palette proposed for the new single family residence. Staff can make all findings and recommends adopting resolution 2112 with standard conditions, but also with incorporation of some staff recommendations of the city engineer's comments for more pervious pavers, particularly around the driveway, to finalize their landscape plan, and staff recommends also reducing the roof pitch above the stair and playroom on the second floor to reduce the height of the overall home. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Do we have any commissioner questions this evening on this project? I don't have everyone on my screen, so if you speak up if you have any. Okay, we're going to go to the applicant then.
Hi, my name is Doug McQuillan. I'm the architect for the project. And as we're tearing down an existing house that Kelly, the owner, actually grew up in. So this is a kind of remake for the Walkers. Basically, we're trying to get kind of more of a kind of cottage style with a steeper pitch roof. And you know, we wanted to move it over to the side a little bit more. So then we have a bigger backyard, and that there's actually views of the kind of up Happy Valley Road valley, kind of looking that way. So so that was the reason for the shift. And then with the roof pitch, we can get some bonus rooms upstairs over the garage and the bedrooms in the back. And, but we've made it so we're not looking into the two adjacent neighbors that way. We're basically looking towards, I believe it was the east. So, so we're trying to, keep our neighbors' privacy that way, and also, achieve a little bonus area for us, for their kids to play, and for a guest bedroom upstairs. I could bring the roof slope down a bit. Right now we're a 12-12 pitch. We like that, but if I go to say a 10-12 pitch, I could get it down maybe 2 or 3 feet or so that way. But we've kind of looked at it, the walkers and I, and we still like the presence of that 12-12 pitch the most. As far as the paving goes, that's no problem changing that to more impervious surface. And then the landscape plan, we've kind of tried to save what's in front there. It's already kind of low maintenance and low water type planting, but we do plan on getting a landscape architect involved, and there may be some revisions to that, but that may come later. Mike, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, hi, my name is Mike, and this is my wife, Kelly. Thank
Hi.
you all for your time. As Doug mentioned, Kelly grew up in this house 30 years ago, and so it's pretty exciting for us to move back in. I think the view of the house, if you see it from the lot right now, it kind of wraps from end to end of the at the front of the lot, and it looks really large and kind of wide and rambling. And so what we were trying to do with Doug, by moving a lot of it to the back, is actually from the street, from Cambridge, the house will look significantly smaller. And the view from all the neighbors will be a much smaller appearance house, given the bulk of the house will now be in the back. So we think from an aesthetic, you'll have a lot more trees and plants and less house to look at when you're driving by or walking by.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners for the applicant?
I have one question, please.
Yes, Kristen.
So since the house is now moving closer to the property line with one of the neighbors, I see that there are some windows on that elevation. And I'm wondering what is happening in terms of any landscaping or a fence to screen between your house and the neighbors, just since you'll now be closer to that property line.
Yeah, that house has a fence on that property line now, plus that property is maybe 4 to 6 feet higher than what we are. So, so we'll redo some landscaping along there. Plus they have some established landscaping on that side too. I took some shots of it. It's kind of hard to see because the planting is so dense there, but there is a fence there, I believe, right, Mike?
Yeah, there's a fence on all sides of the property, and there's a bunch of trees in that area. So, yeah. Not sure if that answers the question, but.
Yeah, that does. So it's very well screened, the existing condition at that property line.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes,
From?
I have a question
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
architect, Mr. McQuillan. The material color board and your 3D model rendering, I don't think I thought it was consistent. Maybe it's because Zoom viewing. Maybe can you tell us sort of the color palette again? I see your material color board, but with Zoom it's hard to really get the real. But can you show us a rendering or something that shows the consistency of that design intent with the color? Like I saw the rendering, and I don't think the same color was depicted, I thought, on that 3D depiction compared to the material color board.
Yeah, it's pretty tough with the program. Sometimes the colors that I see when it comes out, gets changed a bit.
Right.
Nancy, can we see the 3D renderings again? The roof is kind of a grayish brown roof, and then the siding will be kind of a cottonwood paint or opaque stain. So it's kind of a light, it would be a lighter color than what the color is there.
Yeah, it doesn't look exciting in that 3D rendering.
Yeah.
Just looking, and so, yeah.
And then the windows and doors are kind of a linen white color.
Mhm.
And then for accent, we've got some black trim.
Yeah. But somehow your rendering is coming out on the warm gray or, sort of a darker gray tone. That's, I mean, at least I see it differently. So I don't get a sense of the character yet.
Yeah.
So that's one comment I'll have. The other question I have is, have you studied the other pitching of the roof that you mentioned? I understand the desire of the owners to capture additional square footage or some attic space, but just so that we as commissioners could understand, because there's some height issues and massing issues. And do you have another scheme that you've done where you could just show us that this is why we went this way, and we could at least have the benefit of evaluating what that looks like?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I showed them on my, I kind of sketched it and showed them on my program, but I didn't save that program.
Okay.
That file, so.
Right. Thank you. All right, Chair. Thank you.
Any other commissioner?
I have one
questions?
other question for the architect. Could the architect talk a little bit about the design preference or choice to have two different roofing materials, the standing seam lower down and the asphalt shingles higher up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wanted to kind of create that porch kind of almost around the whole back of the house there. And, we didn't want to have, a whole bunch of the kind of same kind of roof. So that's a lower pitch roof. So we thought we'd change that into a standing seam roof. So we have some differential and materials and colors and stuff there.
Okay, I have a question for Nancy, actually. I saw in the staff report that you actually have a draft of the resolution, but the landscape plan there is no landscape plan per se. So is this, how will that be handled?
You show the landscape plan?
Will it go before us, or will it just be staff approval afterwards? I mean,
It's up to the commission. If the commission is satisfied with the existing landscaping that's there, especially along the western side where there's some screening next to the neighbor, if that's sufficient for the commission, and then if they want to add additional landscaping, the commission can do the final approval or continue the item for the applicant to submit
Can you put the landscape plan on the screen?
Don't have that with me.
was there a landscape plan? I didn't see one.
There is, it's, I think there is, yeah, sheet
have
A
it.
Well,
1.5.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it only says future planning to be done, or selected. And then a large lawn area. It doesn't really,
That's in the back, which, nobody sees, but the front, I had pictures of the existing landscaping, and basically we're just modifying that, keeping with the same scheme, but
And on the property line close to the neighbor, actually, it shows that 2 of the existing trees are being removed.
yeah, those are fruit trees that are going to be gone, apple trees, I believe.
I think they are pine trees.
And then, 2 pine trees on that side and apple trees on the other side. They're getting old and scraggly, and they drop a lot of stuff in the pool right now, so I want to get rid of those.
okay. Moving on to community comments. Do we have any raised hands or other?
So if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or press *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised at this time. I did notice that there was someone mentioned something in the chat, but if you'd like to make a public comment, this would be the time to do that. I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have comments now from the commissioners? Eugene, you had started, you want to
Okay.
continue?
Okay, all right. So similar to what John would always talk about, the contextual cross-section or some relationship to the adjacent properties. I think that we want to be consistent with all the applicants. So something like the one that we saw in prior applicant submittal would be something that we would probably want to see. Understand sometimes it's not so important or not, but having that consistent cross-section look to just demonstrate that it's not important or important, that would be something that we would always want our applicants to provide. So that's one. The other is a material color board. Hello?
Did do those. Nancy has those.
Oh, she does. Okay, I thought I didn't see it. Sorry. And then material color board. I'm not convinced about I think the material color board is something that I've seen, that kind of palette and that look that you're trying to establish, the cottage style, quote unquote style, understand. But the rendering just does not give me a sense of how that is being implored or, demonstrated there. So I would like to see a better rendition of the color material. I get it. We've seen a lot of these type of projects, but still, we're a design review commission. We want to give everyone same level of review and proper equity here. So that's another piece that we would like to see. I would also like to just see the different roofing slopes, just to see what that means, so that we can at least know that we approve something that was really truly a better profile and massing. I want to thank the applicant for pushing the building as far back as possible, and really appreciate that, to minimize the impact on the front with a long stretch view that I think the walkers clearly articulated. So that's it. And my sense would be, I would like to see this again further with these kinds of deliverables, so we can then make our further decisions on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, who wants to be next? Armin?
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. So my comment is going to regard the roof pitch and how much of that is visible both from the street side and also from the neighbor side on the west side of the project. And also to that point, I'm questioning the siting of the proposed scheme, that it's moved too far to the west, that it doesn't leave any room for the articulation on that side. And there isn't, and it's kind of just making the roof very just straight line, and then there is no more kind of massing articulation that could happen on the west side. And it really helps to just either breaking of the roof line or some sort of push and pull on that face. That could really help. And I think if you just maybe move the building a little bit more towards east, that would just, the same way as you are doing on the south side, as it's opening up, and then you have kind of a stepping down of the roof, that could happen on the west. That could help with that breakdown of the massing.
Okay, John?
Thank you. Well, first, I would say that I think the moves you've made with the L-shaped building is a successful way of accommodating more program and square footage, while, as the walkers explained, reducing the apparent mass to the street front. So I appreciate that move. Regarding the roof pitch over that would be the west end of the building where the garage is. It certainly, especially in elevation, does appear kind of bulky and tall, but it is set back, and it's a little hard to say how much you would really perceive that from the street versus an elevation. I think it'd be interesting, as Eugene suggested, to see a 10-pitch version and a 12-pitch version to understand which is really the better scheme. And I can't say that I would know right now which one that would be, knowing that the owner favors the 12 pitch for interior volume. So I agree with Eugene's suggestion there. Regarding Armin's comment of the kind of uninterrupted nature of that west-facing roof, I would ordinarily agree with him, but in this case, given the amount of existing trees and screening vegetation between the two properties right there, right now, it wouldn't be perceived at all. And it's only if you see it like you see it in your drawings that you see it, that you would perceive it. I hope those trees last forever or are replaced over time so that they effectively last forever. But if they do, I don't have that concern. But the images that we're looking at on here certainly do make it look like a very large uninterrupted plane. But personally, I'm comfortable with it in the design given the screening. One minor comment regarding the color of the metal roof. I did want to be sure that it was not at all a reflective paint. It should be a satin or matte that is not going to pick up glare if the sun hits it at the right angle. So it's hard to tell that from your finished board. Anyway, I do think that we need to see this one more time. Oh, one more thing regarding Eugene's comment about contextual site sections. You know, I think there's kind of some of that information in drawings that really, when you first look at them, look like building elevations, but then you realize that it is showing the edge of the neighbor's property on two sides. And having been to the site, I think this answers my questions, and I would not personally feel the need for additional site sections given that we do see the neighboring buildings in your drawings. So when you come back to us, as Eugene suggested, it would be nice to see elevations or 3D drawings with the colors rendered a little closer to what you expect it to be. I think it's going in the right direction.
Thank you, John. Kristen, comments?
Yes, thank you. So I agree with John. I think the siting closer to the property line is acceptable based on the density of foliage there. I also don't mind the bulkiness of the roof line there. I think that it is screened enough by the landscape. It is a bulky roof line. It's not ideal from a sort of an independent design perspective, but I think in this context, it works okay. I do have ongoing concerns about the roof though, particularly from the street elevation. It feels like a somewhat chaotic collection of different roof lines, roof materials, and directions. There's just a lot going on roof-wise there. And especially with the introduction of a different material between the main entry porch and the garage doors, I find that it's not, I don't know, it doesn't feel as cohesive as it should in terms of what you want to see, having a consistent language from the street side with the different slopes, the different roofs, and the different material and elevation. So I think that the rear also has that condition a little bit, but I'm more concerned with the public presence of the house than what is on the rear. So I would look for just some clarity on that.
Thank you. Well, I sort of agree with Armin about the articulation of the west facade, even though it is covered by trees on the neighbor's property. The roof at the slope it is right now is an incredible mass that's up there. So it may not need articulation if in fact the slope is changed and it doesn't look as massive as it is. But I would, entertain anything that would break that up to some degree. Regarding the landscaping plans, I'm looking at a 1.5 as the landscaping plan. I don't know if that's realistic or not. It's a little too incomplete for what we would like to see, even though it is mostly the backyard that you're changing, very little in the front yard. One of the comments I have in general is that there's a lot of lawn area. In fact, I thought the requirements for the county now were that lawn is not supposed to take up more than 25% of the landscape area. You have an incredible large area of lawn in the backyard, and you have existing lawn along the curved frontage. So I then come out and do calculation, but you're probably pretty close to being over 25%. So I would actually like to see more water conservation and less lawn, particularly because the future plan is for a pool. So you're going to have a lot of water usage for that as well. I would like to see some additional landscape plans. I did go out to the site and I agree with John that the view from the neighbors' properties is not really a problem, although I do also agree with Eugene. It puts us in an awkward situation when we don't get good sections, although if Nancy has them, we need to see them. But when we don't see good sections, you know, I'm not able to really walk through the neighbor's yard and see where his bedroom is in relationship to your house or whatever. So even though I can see that there's vegetation, I don't know what the coverage or protection is. And that's why we typically ask for some sections to be done. So I think there's a little bit of work. I like the overall design. So you've heard the comments and we'll have to make a resolution for continuance. Do we have anyone that wants to make the resolution tonight?
Before I do, may I have one more thing?
Yes, sure, John.
So consistent with things that many of us have said, but just for clarity, the section that Glenn just referenced and that Eugene and I have been talking about should include whatever screening landscape there is, existing and proposed, so that we understand privacy and view concerns. And that is completely absent from the presentation right now.
Right. Okay, so do we have a resolution here for continuance and someone wants to summarize? Not all at once.
I extend a resolution that we would like to see this project again with more clarity and completeness on the landscape design, review of roof line massing and material options. Is that what we talked about?
Yes, pretty much. Okay, do we have a second on this resolution? So the continuance is going to be to what date? I guess I referred to the architect about how long he needs for a landscape architect to do some work, or a landscape designer.
When's the soonest we could get in there?
It would be 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks?
So
Well, actually, it's September
15th or 29th.
13th, yeah.
13th or 20th?
Yeah, but you
15th
would
or
have to
29th.
get, for the 13th, you have to have everything into the city a week in advance. Am I correct?
Yeah. Let's shoot for that. We'll talk to the landscape and see what we can get on that. Otherwise, I
Okay,
can take care of all the other things.
thank you. Okay, so we have a resolution and the date now is set for the 13th. Do I have a second on this motion?
Just want to confirm it's 1/5, the 15th.
Oh, 15th. Okay, thank you. Do I have a second on this motion?
Second.
Eugene. Okay, let's go through on all in favor. Aye. Eugene,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Armin,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
and Glenn is an aye. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda tonight is 7B. This is a HDP 0521. This is for Vaughn Land LLC, and it's for a property on a, I guess, undisclosed address on Reeley's Valley Road, but I guess my understanding it's on Vaughn, a private road, Vaughn, without a lot number at this time. And Renata is going to be our staff presenter tonight.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yes.
Great. Just one moment while I share screen. Okay. Good evening. Before the commission tonight is application HDP 05-21, which is a phase 2 hillside development permit application for a new single-family residence on a vacant, unaddressed parcel in the Hillside Overlay District on Vaughn Road. Secondary applications for this proposal include a tree permit to remove 14 protected trees and a grading permit to remove 400 cubic yards of earth. The phase 2 application is for design review of a full set of design plans, including landscaping and colors and materials for consideration by the Design Review Commission. Staff finds the proposed development complies with the applicable guidelines and can make all of the required findings to recommend approval for this project. Staff recommends that tonight the commission review the project, conduct a public hearing, and adopt Design Review Commission Resolution 2021-13, approving the project subject to conditions. The subject parcel is currently undeveloped and has dense vegetation throughout the property, including several native trees. The lot is tucked into a hillside with an existing flat area at the center of the lot, surrounded by steep slopes exceeding 31%, shown here in red. Vaughn Road is a private road that wraps around the north, east, and south edges of the parcel. The Planning Commission reviewed the Phase 1 Hillside Development Permit application in 2019 and requested modifications to the building mass to make the design more consistent with the residential design guidelines and the hillside regulations. In response, the applicant modified the design, which was then approved by the Planning Commission in early 2020. The Phase 2 application is similar in its siting, massing, and architectural style to the Phase 1 proposal, and consists of a 4,558 square foot 2-story home, single-family residence with a maximum ridge height of 28 feet 8 inches. Staff finds the project to be consistent with both the general plan land use designation of low density single-family residential and the R20 zoning standards, including building height, setbacks, and parking. Since the parcel is located on a private road, visibility from the proposed home from a public viewing area will be minimal and is not visible from any of the viewing evaluation sites. Further, potential privacy impacts to neighboring properties will be minimal as the structure is nestled in the hillside and will be surrounded by a significant existing and proposed vegetation, as well as the surrounding slopes. So while the proposal is similar to the Phase 1 application, portions of the first floor have been relocated towards the western edge of the property, creating more of an L-shaped building and further tucking the structure into the slope and away from Vaughn Road. Staff finds this change to be in conformance with both the residential design guidelines and the hillside regulations, as it will likely further reduce offsite visibility by moving the building mass away from Vaughn Road and keeping much of the building footprint within the area of a slope of 30% or less. The second story remains largely in the same location on the building as the Phase 1 massing, but was changed from more of an irregular floor plan to a more square and compact shape. It's also been stepped back from the southern edge of the first floor, which is highlighted here by the red box. This change to the upper story is not substantial modification, as the second floor on this end is on this end of the property, which is closer to the steep hillside, and the nearest neighbor on that side is far above with a grade change. The applicant proposes to move 400 cubic yards of earth to construct the residence, retaining walls, and a driveway leading towards the garage. Both the residential design guidelines and hillside regulations require buildings in the hillside areas to utilize existing contours of the site and minimize the use of expansive flat grading. This project achieves that aim by largely building upon this existing flat pad. Those small portions of the building footprint extend into areas exceeding 31% slope. A condition of approval has been provided for the project to comply with recommendations provided in a geotechnical report to minimize effects to the slope stability as a result of the grading. During the Phase 1 application, staff received public comments with concerns regarding stormwater runoff and visibility of the retaining walls. The applicant proposes to have the drainage flow to 2 energy dissipators and have a storm drain connection, which are highlighted here by blue circles. Staff received referral comments from the city engineer requesting more information on the drainage plan, and review and approval of the final drainage plan by the city engineer is a standard condition of approval. The proposed residence steps back the upper story and uses articulation to break up the bulk of the house, which is in compliance with the residential design guidelines. While many of the surrounding homes are smaller in area, the design's staggered edges helps reduce the apparent mass of the building when viewed from various angles or downslope. Staff finds the building massing effectively manages the building height and size and is in keeping with the residential design guidelines and the hillside regulations by working with the site topography. The architectural design also uses multiple planes, intersecting hipped roofs and deep roof eaves to emphasize the horizontal lines and create shadowing, which are features sought after in the residential design guidelines. The materials would be a mix of natural color materials, including stucco and stone cladding, with a muted color palette with brown tones, black shingle roofs, and dark bronze trim. This mix of colors and materials is consistent with the hillside regulations, as it will allow the building to recede into the surrounding vegetation and blend in with the site as sought out in the hillside regulations. Exterior lighting will also be dark sky compliant with down lighting to further minimize offsite visibility. Oops. The Lafayette Tree Protection Ordinance is intended to enhance the natural scenic beauty and provide habitat for wildlife and encourage quality development within Lafayette. Under Municipal Code Section 6-1707, subsection G4, a hearing body may reduce the amount of replacement trees at its discretion due to site conditions if it finds the reduction will be beneficial to the health and vigor of other protected trees on the property. The applicant is proposing to remove 14 existing trees located within or near the proposed residence, highlighted in yellow. And this area is the most developed, as mentioned, is the most developable area of the site. Because the parcel is a vacant lot, all trees with a diameter greater than 6 inches on the property are considered protected regardless of their species. A strict application of the tree protection ordinance would require 63 15-gallon replacement trees. Staff had initially proposed a reduction to require mitigation to eliminate non-native species and protected species under 12 inches. Following publication of staff report, staff received public comment regarding the recommended tree mitigation. And in response, staff consulted with the city arborist who recommended amending the mitigation calculations to only exclude the 2 eucalyptus trees, given they are an invasive species and present a fire hazard. Additionally, the proposed landscape plan includes several large coast live oaks and 1 western redbud tree, which constitute an equivalent replacement value of 19 15-gallon trees. After incorporating these reductions, 25 15-gallon replacement trees remain, which staff recommends be mitigated through the payment of $6,500 of in-lieu fees. If the commission moves to approve the project tonight, staff recommends a motion incorporate a revision to the condition of approval surrounding the requirement for tree mitigation. The proposed landscape plan of the project plans incorporates a mix of trees and shrubs and grasses that are mostly native species with low or moderate water consumption, which is sought after in the residential design guidelines. The landscape plan proposes significant plantings along Bond Road with a mix of tree canopy and lower shrub cover to screen views, particularly as drivers approach from below. Shrubs and tall grasses will be planted along the retaining walls to obscure them from Bond Road or the neighboring properties across the street, which staff also received public comment about in the phase 1 application. So as part of the phase 1 application, staff prepared an initial study and mitigated negative declaration, which were adopted by the Planning Commission. Because the phase 2 application is substantially similar to phase 1 project, staff finds potential project impacts were previously evaluated as part of the phase 1 development application, and no further environmental review is required at this time. The mitigation measures identified in the mitigated negative declaration have been incorporated into the draft conditions of approval. Property owners within 300 feet of the subject property received notice of this public hearing and staff received one previously mentioned public comment, which was provided to the DRC and posted to the city's website ahead of this hearing tonight. In conclusion, staff recommends the Design Review Commission review the project, conduct a public hearing, and adopt Design Review Commission Resolution 2021-13, approving the project subject to conditions with a revision to the condition for tree removal mitigation. Staff is available for any questions.
Question?
Yes, John, go ahead.
Couple questions, actually. First, Renata, thanks for your presentation. As you mentioned in the phase one planning review, there was a comment from one of the neighbors across the street to the east with a concern over the height and bulk. And I know the design has revised that in a way that I would agree does improve the design and address that issue. In the phase two, did that neighbor agree that their concerns were adequately addressed? Were they a part of that? Do you know?
Staff did not receive any public comments, though I believe that that neighbor in particular was included in the notification of this for this application as well.
Okay, my second question is a technical one. We're right up against property setbacks. The roof line, is a roof line allowed to overhang a required setback?
My understanding is yes, that it's the piers and foundation walls that cannot encroach.
Okay, you're right there. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other commissioner questions?
I have a question. Since we did get a public comment about how the tree replacement was handled, and I know you just talked about that at the end, can you clarify or explain whether the revision to the tree replacement and the in lieu of fees are consistent with what is mentioned in the public comment letter?
Let me pull up the letter to see.
And I guess I'm asking because I don't know enough about what the requirements are to assess one way or the other. So.
So I think I'll have to. I will look at this more. I'll get back to you.
Okay,
that's what I
thanks.
have a chance to look at it more closely.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I understand. That's why I asked you. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? So we'll go on to Stephen's presentation.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Kubicek, and again, I'm the designer of the project. We went through phase one. We're in phase two now on this project. During phase one, we met with the neighbor, representative of basically all of the neighbors in the vicinity, and who lives directly across the street from the project, and worked with him to come up with a scheme that would satisfy the neighborhood. Basically, some of their concerns were the proximity of the previous design to the mailboxes. There's some mailboxes down at the top of Vaughn Road, as well as the appearance of the house as you look up at it as you're driving up Vaughn Road. And so to mitigate or to further what they wanted to have happen, we moved the mass of the house back to the back property line, really developed the backyard and what one would deem the front yard. But because of the configuration of the topography of the site and the slope of the site and the way it relates to Vaughn Road below, it becomes a very nice private backyard, even though it is in the front of the house. But it's open to light and air and views out, while still maintaining privacy from Vaughn Road up into the property. Also I've reduced the footprint of the second story and moved it back towards the hill as well, integrating it more into the hillside, so that we ended up with a house that has, for all intents and purposes, as it's viewed from Bond Road, a single story profile with some small visibility of the second story, because it's pushed so far back and has so much of a single story house in front of it. So we work very closely with them. We've gotten indication from them that they're very satisfied with the design that we've come up with. And Renata's presentation was really great. And I'm really just happy to answer any questions for you.
Any commissioner questions? I see no raised hands. Okay, thank you, Stephen. Community comments? Sarah, do we have any, or?
We do. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function or *9 if you're calling in. I'll let Chris Caldwell in now. Hi, Chris, you are in the meeting. If you would like to unmute and make your comment, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My concern being recently we've had some water issues that East Bay Mud has come out to fix. And in doing so, have had heavy equipment on our road and thus somewhat damaged the road that they haven't fixed properly. With this project and this being a private road, I'm concerned about that heavy traffic of large equipment coming up and down the road and the damage it might do to it and who is responsible for that.
Okay, Chris, this is Glenn Cass. Because it's a private road, the city really has no control over that. So it usually is a homeowners association that puts together some governing document for maintaining the road and repairs to the road. And usually what they do is they photograph the road before the construction begins and then assess any damage that's done. But this is all done privately. It's not under the control of the city engineer because it is in fact a private road. I noticed that the road was in fairly good shape at this point in time. So again, you would want it to at least be maintained at that condition. So I entertain that the property owners will need to talk to whoever, and Chris may know who is responsible party for homeowners association or covenants that are in that community.
Okay, thank you for that answer. One more question. Back to the drainage that is being put in place. Where is the drainage from that house going to? I mean, it's going to come downhill. My property is below. I saw the drawings with the drainage catch-alls, but where does it go from there?
Yeah, the dissipator system actually puts the rainwater on the owner's property. So it's collected in those dissipators and then dispersed out along at a slower rate along that area.
And I'm sorry, on that area, does that mean down the road to where?
No, within the property. So the dissipators aren't at the property line. They're back from the property line, and therefore it allows for percolation of water through the landscaping and on the property.
Okay, well, and that's my concern because over the years, there's been spring water and things that have come out onto my property. So it's filtering down through the ground onto my property.
Well, again, what they're going to be doing is they're collecting the water that's running off the roof and paved areas and controlling it. So if there's a spring in the backyard that is percolating down to you, then it's going to continue to percolate down to you.
Okay, and that's my other concern with the disruption of the movement of dirt, how that may become a bigger problem.
Sarah, you have any suggestions? You may just want to bring that to the attention of the city engineer, where exactly you see this leakage occurring from springs onto your property, because when he reviews the design, he can see whether or not the capacity of the system is able to pick up that additional water.
Thank you.
Okay, any other community questions?
If you would like to make a public comment, please use your raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, so Kristen, you want to start this project on comments?
Sure. So I appreciate the citing.
If I could, I'd like to just make a comment to just sort of help
Oh,
help
okay.
the neighbor, if I could
Yeah, sure.
understand the process. So we have a civil engineer that's involved in the project, and he has designed a drainage plan that is keeping the water on the site and not increasing the amount of runoff onto off-site areas. That has been reviewed by the city engineer. There are comments that we need to respond to from the city engineer, and it will be refined. But I want the neighbor to understand that we are looking at this from a civil engineering standpoint and making sure that we have as little impact, if in fact at this point we have no impact on the neighborhood with the water that we are creating as runoff onto the site, because we are holding it on the site and letting it trickle off at a regulated rate, if you will. For the neighbor's edification, just so he understands, there's actually a reservoir that we are installing on the site. And he can certainly get more information about this by meeting with the homeowner, meeting with the property owner, meeting with the civil engineer, and get a better understanding so that he's comfortable with it. None of us, all of us that live in Lafayette, we all live in hills, and Lorinda is the same problem. We are always worried about off-site water coming onto our properties. If there are things that need to be improved on his property because he has runoff that's coming on, it's hard to determine at this point where that water is coming from. But our goal is to not increase the amount of water that's going onto neighbors' properties. And we're doing that with reservoirs. We're doing it with where we're letting water off slowly so it doesn't create a river that's running through the neighborhood and that sort of thing from our site. So I hope that helps the neighbor who spoke, and kind of helps everybody understand how we're approaching our design and what we're doing in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Kristen, you want to start commissioner comments?
Sure. So I think that the siting of the house responds very well to the site conditions, both in terms of disrupting as little of the site as possible, and for respecting the natural landscape and blending into the topography. So I think I support the design in those ways. I appreciate Renata's presentation of the history of how the massing has evolved. And my inclination is to see that the massing, although it has changed, is still consistent with the initial criteria and with the requirements or the guidelines that we have. So I'm comfortable with the massing and the siting. I think overall the proportions and various elements of the house respond well to each other. I initially asked the question about whether or not the tree sort of remediation is consistent with what was raised to us in public comment. My response to that public comment is that our ability to approve or not approve this project is independent of that letter. So I think that the concerns about the trees can be addressed internally with staff. So I'm not concerned about the landscape conditions. And I am not informed enough or expert enough in these drainage conditions, but based on the architect's presentation of the efforts being made, to me, it sounds like at the very least, it's no worse than what's currently there with the natural condition, and is probably actually an improvement from that. So overall, I'm in support of this proposal.
Thank you. Eugene?
Well, I don't think I have to add much more to what Kristen already put out. I think that was a very thorough analysis, Kristen. You did a great job to start this off. Yeah, so I think on my side is I think I'm going to be piggybacking with John a lot on these cross sections and things like that. And so, Stephen, at least I didn't see any major cross sections to show the relationships and sightlines. So I would like to see one of those things on this project again. That's it. Kristen, I support whatever Kristen just said. Those are wonderful observations. Yep.
Okay. Armin?
Yes, I agree with Kristen too. I think the siting of the proposed scheme is pretty well, and it's consistent with the residential design guidelines. And I'm in support of the changes that's been made to phase 2.
Okay, John?
Thank you. I agree with the comments of the previous commissioners. I think it's a nice design, well placed on a difficult site. To the fact that it seems that the neighbors who had concerns no longer have concerns is a positive thing. But I have to say again, it's hard for me to understand the relationships between this house and the adjacent properties based on the material that's been presented to us. You do have site sections on your sheet, a 6.4, but it really only goes out to the road and doesn't show the relationship with the adjacent buildings and does not show any screening landscape. So I do feel that, we're trying to establish kind of a bar of diligence that we can reasonably state that we've done a diligent review of the material. I believe we need to see site sections that include screening landscape and the adjacent building, probably at a smaller scale than we see in your current site sections, just in order to get there. But knowing that, a couple of years ago, a neighbor voiced considerable concern, and I see that you've responded to that. I would like to see it demonstrated that, in fact, those issues are addressed. Other than that, as I said, I do think it's a nice design in a challenging place, and I think it's evolved nicely.
Okay. I like the design. I like the placement on the site. A concern that I have is that because of the very steep sloping site and the nature of Vaughn Road, I think the city needs to see a construction traffic plan because the lower portion of Vaughn Road is a one-lane road. There is a widening of the road just below this property, but I don't really believe that there can be a lot of staging in that exact area. And because of the slope of the land, I am concerned about where staging and parking is going to occur during construction of this property. I had a little trouble understanding the height of some of these landscape walls. They just, I don't know. I kept looking for where dimensions were or something annotating what the height were, because I was looking at the landscaping plan to determine how much screening they would be, and I see like things like fortnight lilies that are in front, and the fortnight lily is only going to be about 18 inches high. So if the wall is only 3 foot high, that's probably okay. But if the wall is much higher than that, that's not going to be a very good shrub to conceal a lot of the walls, the retaining walls. So I don't know if Steve can bring out anything to my attention at this point in time. The only other thing that I had a comment on, at first I thought maybe the landscaping was a little overzealous, but then when I looked at the dimensions of the plants versus what the actual finished side will be, on some of those plants, I don't think it's overzealous. I think it's about what it should be. Although when I looked at the plan, I will have to tell you is a lot of the plants that they're using are just simply not available this year. And if that continues, and that was the same as last year, and if this continues, is that you're not going to be able to find 28 manzanita plants that you've selected in all of Alameda and Contra Costa County. Okay, 28, 28 is not a large number and you won't find them. So again, you may want to look at over with the landscape architect and whether he has to make any calls to make sure that when this project is done, that you have a source for these plants that may be prudent. Okay, so it sounds to me like we want to have a continuance on this, not for very much, but we do want to cover some of the sectional views because there are, you know, again, we need to see more than just driving by the street, what the relationship is to these other nearby homes. Do I have a resolution? John, you're articulate.
Sure. I would move to continue this to a date certain, perhaps if the applicant can be ready in a week, so then meet in 2 weeks. Steve, as you're able, 4 weeks from tonight, to address primarily, from my standpoint, sectional views down across the retaining walls that Glenn was talking about to the property below, and then straight across to the east. I guess that section would include your garage and driveway, if I'm recalling correctly where that neighbor's house was. But you know better than I do. The neighbor's house who had the concerns, and then down below to Vaughn Road, those two sections. Is that a resolution?
That's a resolution. Except do we have, I couldn't tell, you said 2 weeks or 4 weeks, so.
4 weeks is what Steve suggested.
So Steve wants 4 weeks, so that's the 15 and 14, 29th?
29th.
Okay, so we have a resolution for this to be continued to the 29th. Do I have a second on the resolution?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Kristen,
Aye.
Armin,
Aye.
Eugene,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Glenn is an aye. Thank you very much, Stephen. We'll see you in a month. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the ARC volunteer for Friday. So I am available. I can volunteer unless someone is biting at the bit to have a chance. I don't want to take it away from anyone. Okay, I will do the August 27th ARC volunteer. Next item is commissioners' reports. Do we have any commissioner reports? We do have a new city council member that was elected last night, or nominated last night, or chosen last night. So they haven't divvied up who's going to be monitoring DRC, but I just want to let you know that we do have one new commission, or one new council member. Wei Tai is his name, and he's very much an environmentalist, among other things. Okay, staff liaison report.
Just to note that the General Plan Advisory Committee is working on the mission statement update, which the council directed them to do, and there is a workshop on Tuesday next week, the 31st, to kind of go over the draft. So we've done a survey, and then from that survey, the subcommittee has drafted a draft mission statement, vision, values, and now we're trying to get public feedback on that draft. So next Tuesday at 6 o'clock on Zoom, if you're interested.
Thank you. And anything else of importance coming up? Nope. Okay, thank you. We're adjourned for this evening, and I'll see everyone on the 15th, hopefully.